What's up, curious youngsters? We unknowingly use hundreds of products daily. And while some are pretty obvious in how they were made, others have a very curious process behind them. Many people don't consider such a complex process. Other curious people, like Mr. Curiosity, need answers for everything, whether it's about gin or pineapple. Here are 7 everyday items you consume without knowing how they're made. Jeans pants, perhaps one of the most successful inventions in all of history. I'm sure you have a classic pair of jeans or denim pants in your closet, but did you know how they're made? First, it all starts with cotton because yes, even though denim fabric is quite tough, it's made from the soft cotton we get from plants. And since this can come from different suppliers, everything is shredded, mixed, and filtered again to remove any remaining seeds or weeds from our cotton. Once we have the clean cotton, a machine starts to form threads, which are joined together and become a much larger and stronger thread. As we know, most jeans have the same color. This color is called indigo blue and comes from a plant-derived compound. Threads are dipped in hot indigo water and oxidize in the air after a few seconds. The cotton takes on a bluish or even dark color, but even though the threads look blue on the outside, they're still white on the inside. And that's why the threads are placed a certain way on the loom, giving us that characteristic jean color with small white streaks among all the blue. Once we have the roll of jean fabric, we have to start making our pants, and here's what happens next. First, all the pieces are cut from the fabric, then the parts are sewn together. Zippers, buttons, and all the details you can think of are added. Once our pants are ready, leg molds are put in and the final touches are made. After this, they are washed and finally placed inside huge cylinders with stones that will soften the cotton. Camembert cheese. Unless you're lactose intolerant, I'm sure you consume cheese in different ways in your daily life. Even though many of us usually eat the same kinds of cheese, in some European countries like France, we can find an endless variety of this food. Camembert cheese stands out for its unique texture and smell. But do you know how it's made? First of all, we have to go to Normandy in France, specifically to the Camembert area. Yes, the cheese is named after its origin. Anyway, let's start the process. As with any cheese, we need thousands of liters of milk. Here, the milk comes directly from dairy cows on the same farm. Before curdling and solidifying, the milk rests at room temperature for a day, allowing some bacteria to rise to the surface, which start to make the milk more acidic. Once rennet is added, it curdles and solidifies faster. When it's ready, the coagulated milk is gradually placed into different molds. These have some holes so that the water can slowly drain out. After a few hours, the soft cheese is removed from the molds and left to dry in a special chamber for at least a few days. Once the cheese is ready, a layer of mold is placed on top. Specifically Geotrichum and Penicillium, fungi that won't harm us, but will turn the cheese into a true work of art. Once the fungi take effect, let it rest for several weeks. When the outside is hard and the inside creamy, they're ready to be packaged and sent to markets. How strange, French gentlemen. Soccer ball. The most popular sport in the world without a doubt is soccer. And, as we know, to be able to play it, besides needing a field and players, we mainly need a ball. And did you know how they're made? 70% of soccer balls are made in Pakistan, so we would first need to travel to this Asian country. The factory's first step is receiving round rubber bladders, which usually come from another factory. After inflating, some are coated with another material for added durability. And now, what is done is to cut the outer covering, obtaining several patches of different shapes. Next, an employee uses a circular mold to form the outer layer, like a puzzle. And once it's ready, it is placed onto the chamber that we were preparing earlier. This kind of ball is placed in a machine that, with pressure and heat, gives it the simply perfect shape, and we get our ball. Afterward, it is cleaned, polished, deflated, bagged, and shipped worldwide. Carbon fiber. We find carbon everywhere, from graphite to coal and even diamonds. Not to mention that it forms the basis of life. and up to 18% of our body is made of carbon. This material manages to be 5 times stronger than steel, but weighs less than half as much. And did you know how it's made? The process starts with some plastic threads that are chemically modified to have the highest degree of carbon. These threads pass through an oxidation oven, which darkens them through a chemical reaction. After this, in a process known as carbonization, the ovens heat the fibers in an oxygen-free gas which hardens our carbon. The fibers are then placed in electrically charged water, which scrapes their surface to help them absorb resin. Next, a machine collects the carbon fibers into a web, which is placed between 2 resin-coated paper rolls. Next, the paper layer is removed, leaving carbon fiber coated with resin on both sides. Once it's ready, huge rolls are placed, and then it's simply used to produce different things. When the rolls arrive at the factory, they are cut into specific pieces and used to cover different molds made from 3D printing or other lightweight materials. So, once we have the object or part covered in fiber, everything is sent to an oven so it can finish adhering, and that's it. That's really interesting, Johnny. Candied fruit. Even though doctors recommend eating fruit, they never said how. Maybe someone spends their days eating candied fruit or fruit gummies. No, even if you always thought these were pure sugar, they're actually mostly fruit, surprisingly. To make these candies, the first step is to boil a few kilos of fruit for at least a few hours. This softens the fruit, allowing sugar to penetrate more easily. After this, the fruits are placed in dehydrators for about 3 weeks. Meanwhile, evaporated water is replaced by concentrated sugar syrup in the fruit pieces. And that's how we get our candied fruit. To make gummies, we add fruit pulp syrup and lots of sugar. This is mixed for a few minutes over high heat, giving us a thick caramel. The mixture is coated with sugar, cut into cubes with steel wires, and coated with more sugar. And what about shaped gummies like we've seen before on the channel? You simply make this gelatin and then put it into molds. Pineapple is one of the tastiest fruits, and maybe the process behind harvesting them might seem pretty interesting to you. The first step to having a delicious pineapple in our hands, obviously, is planting and harvesting this plant after planting the seed in some tropical field. It takes over 1.5 years to harvest our fruit, usually just 1 per plant, which partly explains the high cost. Workers harvest them and load them onto a truck for transport to a warehouse. Once there, the pineapples are placed in a pool where they will be washed. Items move along a conveyor belt where employees inspect them and cut off anything unusual. And that's how we get our fresh pineapples. Now, if we want something more elaborate like pineapple juice, this gets more interesting. Those fruits that weren't perfect enough to be sold whole are separated, and the spiky part is removed. After this, in a rather aggressive way, the poor fruits fall into a huge crusher that separates the juice from the peel and pulp in just seconds, supplying raw materials for products. How delicious. Candy canes. When Christmas approaches, among the different things that start to appear to get us in the festive mood and context, there are certain foods or products specific to this time of year. Although candy canes are better known in the United States, they are found worldwide. But did you know how they are made? Candy canes come in various colors and sizes, but they're all made the same way, starting with water, sugar, and corn syrup. A starch and mint mixture is prepared and placed in the center of the candy mass. Then everything is mixed together. Since this would be too heavy for one person, this is better. Robotic arms apply significant force to mix all components, creating uniform candy. Currently, the candy is placed around a metal pole and moved by 2 robotic arms, forming a kind of figure 8. This helps the candy to get aerated and also to become lighter in color. When it's ready, the candy is placed on some rollers that, with pressure and a lot of heat, will soften it and turn it into a huge cylinder of candy. Next, red candy is placed beside the white candy so they can all be pressed together on rollers later. until they find something thin and long that resembles an endless rope. Our caramel will be kept warm throughout the whole process so it doesn't harden. Before cutting it to the desired diameter, rollers will spin the caramel to achieve that effect. We'll see this later in the candy canes. At this point, a plastic bag is put on them, and only after that, a machine bends the ends, so now it goes from being a stick to a candy cane. Before I go, I want to say hi to those who subscribe to the new channel on Historias Quay. By the way, there's a new video about the Columbine Massacre. Greetings to Alma, Rosa, Heil Zambrano, Berlin Polaco, and Jose Luis Mejia Rivera. And finally, greetings to Winder Daniel, and the last greeting goes to Solfae.